I'm Philip Brown, 2011 President of the New Hanover-Pender County Medical Society. Anniversaries are usually a time where we celebrate the past. I prefer to think about the future. I think that the medical society has never been more important than it is in the uncertain times we face in terms of healthcare today. Issues of how we deliver high-quality care at lower costs to people who face many health disparities are issues that physicians are uniquely equipped to handle. Alignment through the medical society gives us an opportunity to bring our collective minds together to develop innovative solutions that will lead us to a healthy future in our area and beyond. As we celebrate our 150th anniversary, I think it's also time to celebrate the future leaders. I can tell you that my time as a medical society president was one of the most rewarding years of my life, and my journey in leadership was really just beginning at that point. I think the future is bright for those that would follow, and I look forward to participating in the next half century of our medical society.
I am Jan Rhyne, and I was your president of the New Hanover-Pender County Medical Society in 1998. 1998 was a banner year for the County Medical Society. One of our own members, Dr. C.K. Russ, was inaugurated in November as president of the North Carolina Medical Society. Dr. Buddy Garrett from Jacksonville was the outgoing president of the North Carolina Medical Society and was a speaker at our general meeting during his tenure as president. Other speakers at the County Medical Society meetings included Connie Mazur, the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce, and David Rice, the newly named county health director. The New Hanover-Pender County Medical Society continued our philanthropic outreach, with our members performing state-mandated athletic physical screenings free of charge for middle school and high school students, and also financially sponsored the 1999 North Carolina Indigent Care Conference, which was hosted by our very own Tileston Clinic, which is now named the Cape Fear Clinic. On a personal note, my year as president was my first foray into organized medicine. I have many people to thank for their guidance that year, including Bonnie Brown and former presidents of the North Carolina Medical Society, C.K. Rust, Frank Reynolds, and John Dees. Dr. Dees appointed me to the North Carolina Medical Society Committee on STD and AIDS. I'll never forget one of those committee meetings when Dr. Boyette from Duplin County pounded his fist on the table during a committee meeting, exclaiming that no child in North Carolina should be born with HIV, and we should prevent that from happening. It was at that moment that I fully appreciated the value of organized medicine and the value of each of my colleagues. My year as president solidified to me the philanthropic aspects and impact of our efforts in organized medicine.
I'm Dr. Jim Snyder, and I was president in 1983, which was the 11th year of my practice here. I'm sitting here today in the 43rd year of my practice, so I feel pretty fortunate to still be around. One thing I recall from the 1983 year was my program chairman was Neill Musselwhite. And Neill came up with this great idea to have a ballhead medical symposium where physicians would go and have camaraderie with their families and do CME and just learn to relax a little bit. And that, therefore, was Neill's project for our society that year, but it was the year I was president. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that the Ballhead Medical Symposium started then, although I have to give Neill the major credit for it, who was a president later, I believe. I remember in 1983, this was a very different medical society, made up of what seems to me kind of different doctors. One of the things that I've noticed over the years is that the milieu of medicine, the attitudes in medicine, have to some extent quashed individuality a little bit. And what I remember so much about being president of the Medical Society in 1983 is how many characters we had to deal with, and what rancorous meetings we had sometimes, and how Jim Deneve would stand up in the back and make a motion, and maybe Sam Warshire would stand up and second it, and then everyone would have something to say. There just seemed to be more characters around then, but I think part of that is that back then physicians were allowed to be more individual, and they were allowed to express themselves more, and that's what we did amongst ourselves. There was more camaraderie. I think back then we were a club more than a society, and now we're a society more than a club. Aside from that, I'm somewhat envious of the younger physicians who are coming along now because they have all these wonderful tools to work with, and they're so smart, and they're so well trained, and they are so good in so many aspects. And so I envy them for that. But I'm sorry, they are missing something. They are never going to have what I had when I first got here. They're never going to have that ability to be themselves quite as much, sometimes outrageously themselves, as many of the members of the society were back then. But to me, that's kind of some of my fondest memory.
Hello, I'm Darrell Hester. I'm the former president of the New Hanover-Pender County Medical Society from 2015. It really is an honor to be here today and to be even a thread in the overall tapestry that's 150 years of history for our medical society. That's really impressive longevity. And when you consider how every organization struggles to maintain relevancy, it makes it even more impressive. Not only from year to year, but generation to generation, and in this case, century to century. At the beginning of my year, we stopped and paused at a retreat where we had former and present board members as well as physician leaders from the community, and we stopped and concentrated just on thinking about exactly what makes us successful and what do we need to perpetuate and build on, and we've continued to do that. It's really a testimony to the relevancy of the society that they've been so successful recently. All kinds of impact on health policy and public health policy, third-party payers, standards for providers, etc. Very important. What is it that's lacking today in the healthcare conversation and the debate? It's a apolitical, unified, harmonious voice, and that's what the medical society really provides. There's no other voice for physicians. It doesn't matter if you're an owner or an employee or a solo practitioner or part of a huge hospital system. The society advocates specifically for you, independent of that, and specifically, more importantly, for your patients. It's really important for us to all participate. We think of the society passing here 150 years like a majestic lady or some huge majestic ship, and we're observers on the side. And that's true to an extent, but we really are the ship. We're the rudder, the hull, the engine, the steerage, and we're what makes it go. And that voice is so important. Nobody has the skill and the knowledge that physicians do to bring their differing opinions together and come to consensus and harmony and impact on the decision makers in a way that they can really trust that we have the patient's best interest at heart. So I hope you'll join me in continuing to be part of that voice, and happy birthday to the Medical Society.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ann Allen, and I was president of the New Hanover-Pender County Medical Society in 2016. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today with you. I really enjoyed my year as president in 2016, as I really was the second female president, which is a little surprising considering there are over 50% of medical students currently that are women, but it was a great honor and a privilege. The really biggest honor, however, was to serve as president in a community where I grew up, in Wilmington. As a Wilmingtonian, I had role models that were presidents of the medical society many times and leaders of their fields in the community. It was a thrill for me to come back and be able to join the New Hanover-Pender County Medical Society and ultimately be a leader and president in 2016. I want to thank all of those who assisted me in that endeavor on the board and with all of your support through that year. As we look into the future, I would like to continue to encourage all of you to be interactive and support the local, regional, and state and national medical societies, as they are very important in our future endeavors in medicine, both politically, business-wise, and more importantly, really, as colleagues and friends. Let's continue to share wonderful times together at events such as our spring socials, holiday parties, family days, and this wonderful 150th anniversary celebration. Spending time together with colleagues, family, and friends is so important. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today, and happy birthday to the New Hanover-Pender County Medical Society. Let's have another great 150 years. And remember, there's unity in community. Thank you for being my friends.
Hello, I'm Dr. John Lovett. I was president of the New Hanover-Pender County Medical Society in 2003. I believe that was the 136th year of the organization. The birthday would have been in the spring of that year. It was a wonderful time. It was an interesting time, and I remember being invited to take the position and approaching it after Gene McMurray asked me, and taking it sort of well, what can I do to bridge and move ahead and just keep one year swedged into the next. And then excitement began to build because it became evident that this was going to be one of the big years of push for med-mal reform in the state of North Carolina. Early in our meeting time, we had Steve Keene, at that time General Counsel, now COO of the North Carolina Medical Society, and Joe Jenkins, Dr. Joe Jenkins, JD, MD, who at the time was the chief medical our physician spokesman for the North Carolina Medical Society, come and speak to us. And it was a very exciting time. They essentially announced to us that there was a plan for a meeting, if you will, a bus trip, if you will, and a march upon the General Assembly in Raleigh. It would turn out to be quite exciting. It occurred in April of that year. One thing that I recall from that, and I think others who were there and we shared the similar feelings, is that we realized we were out of our element. We realized it was a real learning time for all of us, and I think the medical society actually began to realize that as well, in terms of where we were and where we were positioned, essentially against the staff and the lobbyists and the members of the General Assembly. And I'd like to look back and reflect and think that possibly that gave sort of the foundation of gaining the experience that eventually led to the success in 2010. It was also interesting as the year progressed. We actually started the year, Bonnie would recall if you were to ask her, how we came up with the idea that we would have the president of the AMA come speak to us, which really was a big time coming not to the little leagues, but certainly it was going to be a big move for them to come to Wilmington. And we contacted the AMA. Bonnie extended the invitation, and she called me all excited, and the invitation had been accepted by Dr. Donald Palmisano of New Orleans. What transpired throughout the year was interesting, though, because as we went forward and we became active in various levels, Chuck Kays, my vice president, was very active in bringing a great slate of speakers in throughout the year, lots of great excitement. The march in April, I remember having exposure to at that time, I guess, Representative Burr, not Senator Burr, and he came and actually spoke at the health department. One thing I do remember interestingly about it is there were protesters outside as he was speaking to us about med-mal in the state of North Carolina. But as we got closer and closer to the October meeting and the excitement built, the most interesting thing that occurred was Bonnie called me one day and said, "Dr. Lovett, I just have to tell you that I've gotten notification that Dr. Palmisano is not going to come." And I was just stunned. And then, "But don't you worry about it. I've already taken care of it." And she essentially had called and related that, "Thank you very much, but you have an invitation and you have an obligation, and we anticipate that you'll come." And I think in his good New Orleans way, he realized that that was an invitation he should accept. He came. It was a wonderful gathering of dignitaries in the medical society. Absolutely incredible gathering. and he gave a rousing speech, as I'd heard him give once before in a similar fashion. And as I said, it was not a successful year for MedMal, but it was the first year and to the level that I think we had beginning to rise. And a lot of, I think if you ask Bob Seligson, the CEO, Vice President, CEO of the North Carolina Medical Society, if you ask Steve Keen, you ask Joe Jenkins, I think that they would probably say yes, there were a lot of good information on the boots on the ground information and education gained that year that led to the success in 2010. So as I reflect back on my experience of starting rather quietly thinking, how can I bridge this invitation from Gene McMurray and swedge into another year and really keep things under wraps and not ruffle any feathers, I found it became a very interesting and certainly a challenging time. It's a very exciting time, and I have very fond memories of it. And certainly I have wonderful memories of working with Bonnie.
My name is Neill Musselwhite, and I was president of the local medical society in 1988. And my mission for today is to inform everyone where the Baldhead Medical Retreat originated. The Medical Society has a tripartite mission. We are supposed to promote collegiality among physicians. We're supposed to keep physicians aware of political developments that influence medicine and the health care of the citizens of the state of North Carolina. And we should promote continuing medical education to keep physicians abreast of the latest developments in medicine. Our local medical society had not promoted continuing medical education since from back in the 40s. In the early 80s, I attended a meeting called the Seaboard Medical Conference that's been held yearly for over 100 years. Since 1898, I believe, for physicians in northeastern North Carolina and southeastern Virginia primarily. When I became second vice president of our local society and was in charge of the meeting programs, I started CME hunting and fishing trips annually. We went to West Palm Beach as couples, and of course, one of our physicians received the High Kicker Award. And Hatteras Piscatorials, which were mainly directed by Tom Marshburn. And of course, we all remember Charles Hunter's overturned car with my son inside. But these were popular and included physicians and their children. In one case, a physician brought his own dad. This concept rapidly evolved into my idea of an annual meeting modeling the seaboards with CME, sporting events, and lovely social evenings. While researching where to hold such a program, trips to Topsail with Dick Myers from Wake Forest and Dr. Ellis Tinsley Sr. Myrtle Beach was too far away, Wrightsville Beach was too close, Carolina Beach had no facilities, and I thought it should be at a beach with multiple sporting opportunities provided. So early one morning, I passed Bill Akins on the 5th floor in the hospital, and I told him of my dilemma. He suggested I look at Baldhead Island. It was and is the perfect place. The retreat was born with no money, but with creative structuring and assistance from pharmaceutical companies. We quickly had a budget in the black, and in fact, after 5 years, when I stepped down as the director, I turned over $18,000 to the Medical Society for continuing CME. I should also recognize the contribution of Mike Donahue, who by himself saved the retreat from oblivion, because as we faltered about 10 years ago, he single-handedly took the reins and revived the program. His comments after a moonlit night and cruise with dancing and food on the mighty Cape Fear, how could you possibly have more fun? For those of us practicing medicine in that period, it was a special highlight of our lives. In closing, I'd like to comment about my memories of the Medical Society. What a life. From my internship days and the absolutely must-attend monthly meetings as directed by Jim Deneen, with steamship round and Manhattan clam chowder at the Blockade Runner. Of course, no alcohol could be served in restaurants except at private functions, so the treasurer was responsible for hauling the bar back and forth to the meeting sites. And then there were the annual Christmas parties, elaborate meals, oysters on the half shell, and dancing with engraved silver favors for the wives. Dr. Deneen's words still echo in my mind. Our spouses take care of us all year long, and at Christmas we'll take care of them. Annual society meetings in Pinehurst. The continuity of Bonnie and Mike Brown. This collegiality has been so special to me, and the mission of always striving to make our community health care better and never accepting mediocrity was, for me, what made us exceptional. My greatest honor was to be part of all this and the opportunity to serve. I thank you.